Well, it's excellent to be talking to Tom Caston of the Bright International School in the Algarve. I'm looking at your website here, Tom.
Yeah.
There are people who bend under this world, and there are those who create this world. How lovely as a founding principle for a school. Before we get into that and that inspiring and remarkable proposition for a school here in Portugal, can we find out a bit more about you? How did you get to be in this enviable and wonderful position?
Yeah, I'm really lucky. Wow, I pinch myself. We were just talking about driving down from the hills of Celia to work every day, and I have this amazing commute. I start above the clouds and just come down past the Umbria Hotel, and just think this is incredible. My commute in England was 45 minutes into the middle of Cambridge, and it was brutal. Now it's 20 minutes down these lovely Portuguese hills. So the backstory is my father grew up in Cascais. So I've been coming here all my life. Portugal it's always been home for me. And I was on the beach 3 years ago and had a phone call from a headhunter saying, there's a school in Lisbon that wants to meet you. Can you go? And I was like, I'm sunburnt because I'm English. I'm in my flip-flops and swimming shorts. And they said, just get a taxi and go. So I went and met this amazing man called Miguel at his school in Tegas Park called International Sharing School. He showed me his vision of education and just said, what do you think? And it was amazing. And it absolutely blew me away. And in so many ways, and I suppose we'll talk about that in a while. But he then phoned me up 6 months later and said, look, I've got a school in the Algarve. We're going to do the same thing. Come and grow it. Last year was our first year 9. This is our first year 10 this year. So we're growing from the bottom up, and it's just, it's the dream job.
He didn't mind you rocking up in your flip-flops and your sunburn. He gave you the job anyway.
I think he saw a link between what I was wearing and Algarve life. He said, oh, well, you're going to love the Algarve.
Perfect. You're perfect for the Algarve. It was going to be Ponte Lima or the Algarve. Okay, you're dressed for the Algarve. Let's get you there. Could you tell me more about those principles then that the Miguel was espousing and building his school on?
Well, so we don't believe in rows of desks and kids sitting there in a line facing the front and the teacher talking at them. It's the buildings, all the classroom spaces have been really beautifully designed by this incredible Dutch woman called Rosa Bosch, where they believe that in her studio, they believe that your environment really can affect how you behave and how you feel and how you perform. So that the classroom spaces are very colorful. They have different areas where you can work in groups, you can work individually, you can work quite isolated if you choose. There's pedal bikes linked to desks, so you can, if you want to keep active while you're working, there's these, we call them watering hole areas where they can work communally. There's still a board, and there still has to be teaching. But what we can do is we can choose the space depending on what we're teaching. And I'm lucky enough to still teach geography this year, and I can show them a bit of a video on let's find a cliche, on an earthquake. We'll watch that. We'll sit around closely together and we'll talk about it. Then we'll go to the classroom space where we might do some book work. I might draw the plate boundary, and then they'll go and work. I'll say, right, this is what I want you to do now. And they can pick their space. Some of them want to work at a desk. They want that security. Some of them might want to go and work, in a little cubbyhole somewhere. Some want to work in a group surrounded by people because that's how they learn best. So it's maddeningly obvious now, having worked in traditional schools.
Yes.
And it means that when they're working quietly, they're not hemmed in, they're not distracting each other. There's not a teacher standing over them. It's just this beautiful, calm, warm environment. And, the learning's about fun and joy and discovery and color.
It sounds amazing. A phrase that comes to mind is, "Oh, it wasn't like that in my day," and I presume it wasn't like that in yours either.
But lots of schools still are, and and like I say, I've come from the traditional English, independent system and state system, and the classrooms all look very generic, and you walk into the classroom spaces here, and it looks a bit like a Google Office. I hear a lot, but equally, then I say, well, look at the kids. Are any of them mucking about? They're all totally engaged, and I think the kids they use the spaces more intuitively than we do. I'm old. They drift towards the best space for them.
That's interesting, isn't it? So you're conditioned in a way to meet the formality and look for it, and these youngsters are being brought up in an entirely different way, where presumably that will be reflected in their work life as well. And that's an important point here, isn't it? I mean, it as you've put it, I mean, it's obvious that would be more conducive to learning and the development of human beings. And yet we still have these residues, don't we, of basically, I suppose, a system geared for the Industrial Revolution and creating workers to fit into a particular kind of system. But that's not there anymore, is it, Tom? I mean, we do have to change education, don't we?
That brings us back to that quote that you mentioned at the beginning, build your own world. There isn't a trodden path. It's not just this narrow pathway to the job when you leave university. I want them to create and think and see the world in a different way and not in a uniform way, because the world is changing. And hey, in 5 years' time, there's going to be jobs that you and I have never heard of that they're going to have to do. And how can I prepare them for those jobs in terms of what they know? All I can do is give them the skills and the passion and the inquisitive mind. So I'm trying to do both. I'm trying to get them grades, but at the same time, I'm trying to make them ready to do something amazing.
I'd love to hear more about that balance, because I've heard it said, and I'm going to make a real hash of this, but it's something like, we have a 19th century system for a 20th. I don't know. It's the 19th century, the 20th century, and the 21st century, which you're trying to educate people for. So, but you're trying to educate kids for the 21st century, but we're using a 19th century model potentially, or it's still very much it looks very 20th century when you look at it, as you say, with rows of seats. How are you balancing that? How are you giving? I suppose parents are looking for something that they recognize as education, and yet this world of AI now, a rapidly changing working world, where, as you say, there are jobs we haven't heard of yet, and the jobs we have heard of, we're all hearing are going to get killed by AI. How are you striking that balance?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we use the Cambridge curriculum. We do IGCSEs and A levels. Which and so when I'm teaching geography, if it's a 15-mark question, 8 of those marks will still be about their knowledge. I still have to give them knowledge, and we talk a lot here about the other 7 marks are of their evaluation and their personal thoughts.
Right.
We talk here a lot about, the joys in the journey, and it's that fun and joy and love of learning and connections they're making and being part of a community. But equally, there's a destination too, and the parents are investing a lot of money in their kids' futures. So I've still got to produce a bit at the end where they go, right, my next thing, please. So
absolutely, yeah.
I think we can teach them in a slightly different way. If I teach something, rather than go through the structure of a topic, I might go to the end first and say, how do we feel about the fact that in Haiti, so many thousands of people died for an earthquake that wasn't that big? And that's the lens from which we look at the whole thing, rather than go from the very beginning and work to that point where we look at it at the end. How do we feel about this? And it's just giving them that slightly different way of thinking from the start. And I think that it's embracing IT. It's having a brilliant computer science teacher that I do who learns with them AI. It's tough.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I mean, it was never easy being a teacher, was it? Because you have these minds in front of you that you're molding into shape and giving them the best start in life. How I take it the kids are responding pretty well to this environment and that mission. How are parents responding to this? How are parents responding to that message and that orientation, I suppose, around their children's education?
I think I'm very lucky here that I think the kind of parent, we're very international. I would say about a third of the kids are English, but the rest are from all around the world.
Right.
So the English might be the biggest group, but they're not the dominant. So we've got every nationality. And I think the kind of parent that's willing to not follow that trodden pathway in their home country and who's going to take the risk to come somewhere for a new life, a new experience for their families, they're open to this philosophy too. And I think we're all very aligned. And if they were looking for something traditional, then they can have that. There are other schools which are more traditional. And I think that if they're coming through our doors, our values are really clear. Our values are about joyful learning. It's about building a community and connections within that community. And it's about creating a natural excellence, not a forced excellence where the kids are compliant, but an excellence where each kid finds their own. And I think that if those values resonate with the parents, then they're our kind of people. And if they don't, then
Yes, and the parents maybe say, "I just wish I'd had this sort of education myself." I
Yeah.
suppose that's the sort of response you're looking for. On this matter of being in Portugal and specifically the Algarve, you said your history of Portugal goes back to coming here to Cascais,
Yeah.
and the connection with your father. What is your relationship to Portugal? How did you get to be here? What do you love about this country?
So my dad's parents moved away from England after the war, and they refused to go any closer than Lisbon. So he came back to school in England, went back to school in England, but then every holiday flew back to Cascais. So
Wow.
when I was 3 weeks old, it was my first holiday, and I've been
Wow.
coming to Portugal 2-3 times a year, and my hope was always to retire here. But as you said
Yes.
earlier, I have this incredible opportunity now to build something quite unique and quite special in a place that I love. And at the moment I'm struggling with the rain. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Yes,
But
yes, same here. As you can see from my screen, yes, a little homage to the constant rain at the moment, but it will brighten up, and it is a
yeah,
fabulous country to raise kids in, I would say.
so good.
I
Yeah,
wonder if you agree with that. And it seems to be the parents obviously who lead with migration, and they
yeah.
have their concerns about bringing their kids to various countries around the world. How do you rate and promote Portugal as a place for young people to grow up in?
I think that so many parents, quite rightly, the first thing they do, whether they move to Portugal or where within Portugal they move, the first thing they need is reassurance that the quality of education isn't going to be diminished. And I think that international schools are good; they are good, and
They have
we
to
are.
be, don't they?
Yeah, we're teaching GCSEs, we're teaching A levels, we're teaching IB. We have to deliver the same quality and at the same standards as schools in their home countries. And I think that the not the challenge, but the first tick that we have to do is to show the parents that they're not going to have their education diminished by coming
Yeah,
here. And I think
yeah,
once the parents see that, then it becomes very much a case of just a feeling. And I think the Algarve parents are looking for community.
yes,
They are, because often they're leaving their home, their families, their wider families, their infrastructure in their home countries. So they have to come here to feel that there is a community for them. And Portugal is very good at that. The Algarve particularly is very good at that. You can come and it's very easy to get sucked into the community of the school or the local, whether it's the paddle or whether it's the golf club. So on this Friday night, we're having a beer and sausage evening for our parents. We have a craft beer maker.
Excellent. Sign me up. That's all that some parents want to hear, isn't it? Yeah. My kid's going to be great at this school.
But what I want is the parents to feel they're coming into our community, because they're coming often on their own with their kids, relocating here, and I want to feel that they can get pulled up into our community. So we've got a local craft beer maker talking us through 6 or 7 of his beers, maybe 4 or 5. We're having an amazing chef making some complimentary kind of food and sausages to go with it. And and I want the parents to feel that they're going to come here and land in something that's going to be meaningful for them as well, and going to kind of drag them along with us. And
That sounds amazing. In
and
the
I think
wonderful
Portugal
town
is
of
good for
Loulé,
that.
that's where you're based, right? The school,
Yeah.
the Bright International School is in Loulé. Well, there is a Lisbon operation, but also in this fairly. How long have you been in Loulé as a school?
So the school was built it's about 7 years old. It's previously owned by a different family, this amazing family from Madeira, who have a school in Lisbon, a school in Madeira. They bought this in 2024.
Right.
So this is our second year of functioning now as Bright.
Right.
I joined, this is my second year, so I joined when they bought us, and we've grown this lovely little primary school that already existed up year by year. So as I say, this is our first year 10 this year, so our first year of GCSEs.
How exciting!
Yeah.
These children are trailblazers and pioneers in pretty much every way, aren't they?
Do you know what? I say this to them a lot. I say to the older ones, you can set the culture in this school for the next 50 years. Because if you're lovely to the year 9s, the year 8s, the year 7s, the year 6, then when they get to that age, they will be lovely. And, you will create this warmth. And, I remember being at school, we used to get a complete shooing from the year 11s when we were in year 9, because that's what the year 11s did to them when they were in year 9. And that
it was the culture. Yes.
And then I'm sure when we got to year 11, we weren't particularly nice to year 9 either. I mean, hopefully I was, but do you know what I mean?
And I
think
understand. It's culture, isn't it? That you're trying so hard to create. Yeah.
And you're right. They are trailblazing, and I think they're very proud. I think they're very proud to be here.
Yes, yes, and a little bit more about Loulé before we look on the macro at the future of education and children in this sort of turbulent and fast changing world. Loulé is a fabulous
Oh, I
little
love it.
town, isn't it? Yeah, great
Oh,
market,
great
great
market.
festival, great carnival.
The carnival, it's the most extraordinary place. You can go for dinner on a Friday or Saturday night, wander out, out of the restaurant, whatever, and you might just find a band playing, or there'll be some lovely fado music. It's very, very nice, and it feels authentically Portuguese, Loulé, and I really love that about it. The kind of cobbled streets and the castle, and the kind of the side street bars. It's very nice, and I can be on the beach in 12 minutes from leaving the office, leaving school, which is quite nice as well.
Yeah, notes to self there with parents thinking about the Bright International School. Pick the kids up, go to the beach. Yep, sounds good. Check.
12 minutes.
Very, very good, and it is and IRL, as the youngsters would say, and in real life school. You're not doing any sort of online education, are you? This is a school, like a site that children come to.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's certainly a market for that out there, but no, I think I love that intangible sense of curiosity and joy that you get in the class when the kids go, wow.
I was just wondering, because people I think would really be excited by the ethic and thinking, well, how can I get access to that even if I don't go to Portugal? You'll have to move it. You will have to move it. So the future then, that you're dealing with, you're preparing children for. I mean, it's like all bets are off at the moment, isn't it? AI's, like thundering towards us, and the effect that will have in the job market and our world, just the world we're living in, let alone work. What are your views on that? And what sort of conversations do you have with the children about that?
I think it goes a bit back to what we were saying earlier about a destination and a journey, and creating your own futures and building those skills. I read this amazing essay by a guy called Noah Harari. And lots of people, he writes about the 21st century, and he writes about education, saying that, they can Google anything. What we need to teach them is to think critically and to be creative and to communicate and to collaborate. So they're the things that are going to carry them through the next stages of their lives. So it's, like we said, it's balancing the knowledge and those skills. And, we also want to add the kind of the fifth C of his 4 C's, which is caring, which means things mattering, getting cross, having principles and feeling strongly and passionately about things. And I think that if we can instill those in them, then I say to the kids a lot, who knows what the future is going to bring, but all you can do today is your best. And harvest skills that mean in the future you'll be ready, and also fail. It's okay. It's okay to lose and fail, and because that's part of it as well, because in the future life might be a bit tough. So if we can fail too, then that's going to prepare you. So it's those things. And as we were saying, life isn't quite so linear now. That it is university the obvious and best option. It was for me. There was no doubt. I went to university, then I got a job in a bank. And now
oh, those were the days.
Yeah. I didn't last that long, but I think now apprenticeships are brilliant. And in the last couple of years, I've had real success sending kids to some amazing degree level apprenticeships where they don't come out of university 30 grand in debt. They come out after 2 years with a degree level qualification in an industry and having been paid 50 grand over 2 years. So apprenticeships are an amazing option now. But if the economy isn't going to be great, then are they going to continue?
But what it sounds like, it does sound very pupil centered. I think that's a phrase from the industry, isn't it, or from the profession, that you're looking at, as well as adhering to a curriculum, and it's the Cambridge curriculum, and people can do their GCSEs, they're called now, and A levels, and the IB, the International Baccalaureate, with you at
we don't do the IB. Lots of schools will do the IB. You do IB or A level.
Okay, and you do A levels, right? Okay. And so there is that you're preparing children to take those examinations and have something that's recognizable around the world, and it is people focused in as much as, I mean, that sounds really exciting. It's not just straightforward. Okay, you need to do your level so you can get to the university. You go to that university so you can get this job. It's going to be about what's going to work best for that individual, is it?
100%. And I think that one of my favorite metrics has always been, it's not how many A stars did you get in your school. My favorite metric is how many of the kids at your school went to their first choice next thing. Because their first choice next thing might be anything. It might be Cambridge or MIT, or it might be medical school. It might be work with folks. It might be go for a year off, but it might be work on a farm. Who knows? But as long as it's their first choice, then I've done my job, and we've done our job as a school, and the parents have done their job. It means we've collaborated, we've made good decisions, we've pushed the kids in the right way, we've heard them, we've seen them. So some of the biggest successes might be a kiddie going and getting a job as an apprentice in a who knows what, something totally random, but they might.
You make a really good point, Tom. Yeah, because I remember that not getting your first choice can be quite a crushing. You feel like you're taking second best, don't you? Or you're not who you wanted to be, and then you're forever cast in that shadow, aren't you? I didn't get to where I wanted to go. I had to go to where they would have me. So none of that at Bright International. Then you pick the first choice and work towards it. The student, the teaching body, and the parents working together to have that happen. Amazing.
And everyone has a different first choice, and I think that's the thing. And the first choices are going to change in the next 5 years even more. And it's not always going to be university. It's going to be lots of different stuff. And I think that our job is to be ready and to have the knowledge to guide them there.
Yes.
But it is
I imagine there are similar individuals to yourself, people who are slightly. What would you say? You're not your run-of-the-mill teaching staff. Some very interesting people in your faculty, I suspect, as well.
I've been very lucky that in the last 3 years, no one's left. So I think when the sharing group took over, when the family, Miguel, the CEO, and his brothers, when they took over the school, they gave us this vision, and the staff stayed. And then I joined, and they still stayed. I was here for a year, and they still stayed. So I've been very lucky that we're on this journey together. And you know what? My metric for whether I want to give somebody a job here or not is whether the kids are going to be drawn to them, whether I want to listen to them talk about what they love for an hour, and whether they've got that passion and energy and quality. And I've got some amazing people here. It's good. It makes me work harder. It's quite humbling, but I'm very lucky with the team I have, and the fact that no one's left, it means that I'm building. And at the moment, I've got an interview today and one on Thursday for 2 potentially incredible PE teachers who can both very different, one football, one athletics, and they can make a huge difference to us, and I'm really excited about these moments. I heard this wedding band called the Originals playing, and the drummer was just cool, lovely, brilliant, bearded dude, and I just thought, I need you to come and teach the drums at my school.
And did he?
So he does all the drum lessons, the guitarist does the guitar lessons, and the pianist does the piano lessons. They're called the Originals. They are unbelievable. And so it's just these brilliant, passionate, creative young men who are doing what they love, and they're just the best role models. We have a DJ Susie. I heard her playing and just said, I need you to come to the school. So she does DJ lessons 3 days a week after school.
Seriously?
You know what? We had this barbecue at the end of the year. We had all the parents and kids and staff. We had prizes and speeches. And then I had a bunch of 9-year-old boys DJing at the event. It was on proper decks.
An education they will not forget. Anything else in the curriculum then that's a bit unusual like that?
I'm just trying to kind of harvest amazing people. We've got the Villamora Sports Academy doing the sports. We have Rise Drama doing the drama. There are some really creative, unusual people here. We have a Pokemon club. One of the parents has started a Pokemon, just brilliant. And the latest thing, we have an electric car from Malaysia that's been delivered to us in pieces. We have to build it as a group. We have to raise about €5,000 in advertising on the car, sell advertising space, and then go and race it in Portman. We need to buy kit. We need to test it. So we've got an engineering. It's mad.
That's a very different design and technology class to the one where I made an ashtray for my parents.
It's called Befori EV, and Befori are a high-end Malaysian car company. And so literally we have a team of engineers that every Thursday make it, have a social media team who are making reels, we're then sending it out through the business team, all kid led, to then try and raise money.
These teams are made of pupils. They're not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right,
And we just stand back and just kind of nudge them a little bit, but they don't really need it. And we need, so we're approaching local companies for sponsorship, saying, we'll put your name on the side of the car, and there are ways to make the car faster. I need to go down to the Almansil race course because I got about 6 of them that want to drive it. So we need to have some kind of competitions to see who the fastest drivers are.
Sounds amazing. Yeah.
Bonkers.
Wonderful. So for anyone thinking about coming to Portugal and bringing their children here, sounds like that's very well taken care of, which would be music to parental ears, wouldn't it? They've got enough going on without having to worry about what's going on in the school. I mean, presumably you'd recommend this culture as a place to bring up children.
Oh yeah, it's safe. It's really safe, and like I say, you can get swept up into the community, and my it's the best thing I ever did for myself. And I've got 2 little boys, big boys now. They're year 9 and year 10, so 14 and 15, and they're back in England sadly because they both love rugby. They're very good at rugby, and I can't entice them out. But I know they're desperate to come, and the moment they're just happy having a dad who's got a cool house near the beach. But I want them here, and I would recommend it.
Amazing. And more generally then, Tom, to conclude, for parents who would understandably be a bit concerned about the future for their kids in terms of work and what the world's going to look like. As an educator, what's your advice or insight in that? How best to bring up kids these days in terms of their education?
I think when I think about my own kids, it's about developing passions and skills, and it's hard. It's because they're all so different. I mean, I think the school is really important. I stand at the front gate every day and say hello to every kiddie that comes in, and what I want is to feel that they want to come into the school, and if I can have that kind of running, well, for the staff too, to be honest, if they run, the staff maybe don't run, but if the kids are running into the school every morning, then I've got that energy and that passion that we can then frame for them in the right way. And I think that just creating a love of learning, and my 2 little boys, I want passion. I want them to say yes to everything, try everything, but also not to worry if they fail. And it's tough. There's pressure, and I've been educating for 27 years, and I still worry about my kids. And the future. But I think
it sounds like more of the emphasis on the pull rather than the push, because formerly, the education I'm guessing we both experienced was a lot about pushing and getting to certain targets. This is creating an atmosphere in which your children are pulled by passion and interest and curiosity, and developing themselves as leaders, as individuals, as characters, rather than too much about the facts and the figures that are being crammed in.
Yeah, I mean, it should never be about compliance and complying with the teacher. We talk about education should be high performing. I want the school to be high performing, but not high pressure. And if you can find that difference and that intangible, amazing quality, then the kids are going to be fine. They will, and they will leave at 16 or 18. I hope with the skills that they need for the future, whatever that might be.
Wonderful, excellent, great to talk to you, Tom. It sounds like that's exactly the balance you're creating there at the Bright International School in Loulé, in the Algarve here in Portugal. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Nice to see you. Take care.